This is a video response to Tim Savage. Now, if you don't know who Tim Savage is, I'm going to link down below to Tim's vlog channel and to his channel, which is for a comic character or comedic character that he has called Squeezy. Who, you know, I've followed Tim's stuff for years now, and he recently uploaded a video on his vlog channel entitled "Goodbye Hollywood." And the thing is about Tim is he sort of rose to a level of prominence on YouTube with this comedic character Squeezy, who is really funny. So definitely check that out. But he then sort of branched away from that when he kind of got freaked out by the number of people who not only thought that Squeezy was real, but that he that some people were actually like glorifying the character when really the character was a jibe at people who really don't care about anything other than themselves. But anyway, Tim did this video called "Goodbye Hollywood," and he moved to Hollywood. I think he said it was something like 5 years ago. He moved to Hollywood to try to really break in as a sort of creative actor, and I know he's done radio work and things like that as well. He's done a bunch of stuff. But on his vlog channel he's told a lot of stories about things that have happened to him. They're very funny. But in this video he talks about how he's pretty much changed in a pretty fundamental way over the past few months, and that it's made him reevaluate things in his life, and it's made him change his plans for his life or his goals. He's not exactly sure what his new goals are going to be, but he is abandoning something which has been an ambition of his for a very long time, and that ambition was to establish himself within the Hollywood system. Now, as a fan, it was quite a difficult video to watch in some ways, because here's a guy who has real talent, right? He's really funny, and he hasn't quite been recognised yet as you know, the next big thing, but he's certainly had opportunities. He's been involved talking to some pretty big Hollywood names at certain times, but you know, he hasn't had that bite yet that he's really needed, where somebody says, right, okay, let's go with this guy, let's, you know, give him a TV series or whatever, let's get him involved in films. And he's kind of been sickened by what he's seen in Hollywood, by the sort of I think he sees it as a sort of the selfishness of it, and in himself he's looked at things and believes that he has been spending his life trying to reach a goal, which is to establish himself as an actor and as a comedian, and he believes that has been purely down to selfish validation, that you want people to watch you, that you want people to say that you're great, that you're good at something, that you're really trying to make up for certain insecurities that you may have, and you just want people's adulation. And he thinks that that's been the main thing that's been motivating him in a lot of ways, and he is sickened a little bit that he's found that out about himself, and now he's decided that he's going to change that, and he's only going to make or create things out of a love rather than out of a sort of sense of career. I think it's a sort of double-edged sword here. You know, in some ways I think it's incredibly brave for him to do that. I think it's also very brave for him to take time and look at himself and try to really figure out who he is, because we're all trying to do that. Nobody really knows who you are, you know. We all try to figure out things about ourselves, and he's been trying to do that, and he's come to this conclusion, and he's going to try and move on with his life. On the other side of it, you have a guy who is quite blatantly more talented than half the people that are on television at the moment, or half the people that are in films. He is you know, I'm not going to band around the word genius, but he's certainly someone who has a great creative instinct for creating comedy, creating characters, and also telling fantastic stories. He's a real orator the way he speaks. And I made a video a while ago about a guy called Brandon Hardesty, who I've also been a big fan of, and he made a video where he basically seemed like he was a guy who was giving up. And Tim's video is slightly different because it seems like he's reached a crossroad in his life with regards to what he wants. Now, what I would say is this, to me anyway. I don't know Tim. I'm just like as a fan, as someone who's objective, looking at that video and what's come before it. I would say that it's good to reevaluate. It's good to try to have a perhaps nobler motivating factor within yourself for doing something. But I also feel as if being creative, and not just being creative, but being creative in the sense of that's what you do with your life, that is something that is worth continuing to pursue. And if you don't do it in Hollywood, if you're sickened with that, then you don't do it in Hollywood. But the one thing I would say to Tim is this, if he ever watches this video: he has an established audience, and I said this to Brandon Hardesty as well. I said, you've got an established audience here on YouTube, and things have changed now. People go out and they try. I think, you know, with Brandon Hardesty, I think he felt in some way that he'd been a failure because he hadn't, you know, he'd had a couple of movie roles, he'd been on TV a couple of times, but he hadn't really broken in where it was a career, where it was going to be something that would provide a livelihood for him. And he felt that he had been a failure because of that. You know, dealing with agents, trying to get an agent first of all, then getting an agent who's worth their weight in gold, then getting that agent to then get you work, and then getting that agent to get you the right work. You know, all of these things are very, very difficult. But it seemed to me that when Brandon made that video, that what he was forgetting was this established audience. It's the same thing that Tim has. He has an established audience. I think he has 30,000+ subscribers on his Squeezy account, and I think he's got something like 4,500 on his vlogging account. People recognise your talent in the same way that they recognise Brandon Hardesty's, and things have changed. You no longer need an agent. You don't need a manager. You don't need a record company if you want to make music. You don't need a publisher if you want to write a book and get it out there. You don't even need a movie studio to make a film. If you're a creative person, and I consider myself a creative person, not necessarily somebody who's very good at the things that I do, but these are the things which I'm trying to make an inroads in my life. If you are a creative person, it's the best time in human history to be alive, because things like YouTube, even things like setting up a Facebook fan page, forums, just word of mouth in general, these things have removed the middleman. Sure, you know, movie companies are still important, studios are still important, record companies are still important, book publishers are still important, but they're not necessary anymore. They're only important now because they can increase your scope. They can give you the resources to go and do something big that you want to do that you might not get to do otherwise. But they're not essential anymore. And you already have this established audience, just like Brandon had. And if you want to really make a success of what it is that you're doing with your acting and with your comedic characters and things like that, you have the platform already there done. You know, you already have it. You have managed to do it, to do something which not many people can do, as you've managed to establish yourself on YouTube, and you have that audience to take you forward. And I think that should be, in my opinion, that should be your focus. If the Hollywood thing hasn't worked out for you, don't abandon it as a career. Don't abandon the idea of being able to make a life out of being creative. You know, some people talk about that as if it's selling out. You know, it's not. You know, as long as you don't compromise yourself, there's nothing wrong with trying to make it your career, make it your life. It doesn't invalidate the art that you do or the art form that you're part of. It doesn't invalidate what you're doing at all. You know, in fact, it's good that if you have a career doing it, because it means that you can focus all of your time on doing that. You don't have to worry about working a 9-to-5 job and then a few hours each night, try and work towards your goals. You don't have to worry about that. You can put all of your time towards it. Now, I personally think that Tim has all the talent in the world, and I think it's really sad that he's thinking of possibly. He said he's not abandoning it. He's still going to make videos and things like that. He's still going to be creative because that's who he is. He's a creative person. But I think it's sad that somebody who is so obviously could make it, and I hate it when people do this, but I seem to do it a lot. You know, someone who so obviously could make it with the talent that he has, and with the established audience that he already has. It's very sad to see someone decide that it's not what they want. And it seems to me from the video that it was more about changing the focus of why you want to do something. You know, to me, it's the same thing. See, when I was a bit younger, I had all these creative pursuits, and I wanted to be good at them. But it was a similar thing. Big part of it, you know, I was bullied when I was younger, and I had this thing about wanting to be validated all the time. And you know, I think part of being creative was born out of that in a lot of ways. To try to establish yourself, to prove yourself to people, to try and get their recognition. But now, although I still take it a little bit personally when people criticise the things that I do, in the end, my motivator, my motivation for doing those things is very different now. And it's not primarily about getting recognition. It is genuinely about achieving something, about communicating ideas, about entertaining people. And maybe even about having a longevity after you're long gone, you know, and maybe inspiring or influencing other people to go on and do better things. So I think, to me, when watching that video, I got the feeling that with Tim, the main thing was actually, it's not about, you shouldn't really think about it as abandoning that part of your life, you know. It should be more about just trying to reevaluate why you do it, and that's it. Because it seems essential to Tim to be creative. And for those who aren't, I think everyone's creative in a way, whether it be in your office work or whether you paint, you know, pictures, you know, and it doesn't matter. I think everyone's creative in a way. But for those who are really creative, it's an essential part of them. It can be difficult for others to understand that, and I understand that. It seems like a total overly dramatic thing to say, but you know, I've said this to people before. To me, it's like breathing. You know, if I wasn't able to create things, then I would feel that there wasn't any point. And I feel with Tim that he's the same way. He's somebody that wants to create, and he really should keep doing it. I know he says he's going to keep on doing it, but it seems like it's going to be sort of in his spare time. And he also talked about, you know, having to get a job that you know, he was looking around for jobs. Maybe he wasn't qualified for other things because he's been pursuing this career for, I don't know, 10 years or however long. But to me, I think you're just on the cusp, man. If you're watching this, you're just on the cusp. You're just there. You know, you've established yourself online. The world's very different now with regards to creative people. You can do it without all the other machinery, you know, all the other institutions, all the other people that are hanging on. You can do it without them now. You can do it yourself, and you have the talent to do that. And Tim has the talent to do that. Rather, should I say, because I doubt he'll watch this. But yeah, as a fan, Tim, if you do watch this, just keep going, don't give up, because you have a real talent and a real ability to do something pretty special, I think, which is to make people laugh, which is a very, very difficult thing for people to do. But not only that, you do it in a very intelligent way, and you definitely stand out from most of the people on YouTube who I've watched who consider themselves comedians. And you stand out, in my opinion, from a lot of people who are professionals as well. That's why I have no doubt that you could do it. You just need to focus, I think, on your online fan base, and you could have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and you could make enough money through doing YouTube, through advertising, through YouTube's AdSense policy, that you could have a career doing that and work on other things. That's what I think anyway. So sorry if this video's went on a bit, but you know, I hate to see someone getting down on themselves. I hate to see someone feeling like they need to perhaps remove themselves from something that I think they love. At least it appears to me. And I might be totally wrong. You might be making the right decision. You might be. But just to me as a fan, I just look at it and I think it doesn't come across that way to me. It comes across that you should keep doing what you've been doing, but just refocus on, like I say, on your online fan base. And that's about it. So go and check out Tim's 2 channels down below if you want to see what I mean. Great YouTuber, very talented, and hopefully you'll keep at it. Alright, I'm going to go now. It's late. Bedtime. Bye for now.